a foggy autumn day in some fields above Oldham, and yes, you guessed it, we're going to go and take a look at the source of the Medlock. For here, in this bleak landscape, the Medlock rises. Fed by springs in fields, apparently it emerges from a culvert, which is quite ironic considering that I spent most of the time following this river through the city in culverts. And so to see where the Medlock rises, we must come to Oldham, and we've got to go to the northeastern part of Oldham over here towards Moorside, a place called Strinesdale. And as we zoom in here slowly, you'll see we've got Strinesdale Country Park, and this branch here that runs into those reservoirs goes up here, and we're now in the upper reaches of the Medlock. And as we zoom in even further, as the Medlock takes this sharp bend left here, this is the source of the Medlock. If we go to the old maps, to when springs used to be an important thing to put on maps, you'll see there it says spring, and that is probably the source of our River Medlock up here. And if we go to another old map, we can see it's actually marked on this old map, source of the River Medlock here. So there you go. So that's where we are, Strinesdale Country Park, just to the northeast of Oldham. So here we are in Strinesdale above Oldham, and I'm stood above the source of the Medlock. This little culvert here and this little trickle will become the river that we know. And on its journey into Manchester, and I'll have to read them, it will be joined by the Roebuck Low Brook, Sheepwashers Brook, the Thornley Brook, Roton Brook, Rabbit Brook, Little Bankfield Brook, Taunton Brook, Oldham Brook, Lum Brook, Lords Brook, and as we know, the infamous Shooters Brook. And of course, how could we forget the final tributary, the one that spends its entire course in perpetual darkness and meets the River Medlock in darkness, the River Tib, that ebbs and flows with the rainfall. And here it is. And it will run on, and it will meet the River Irwell, but not until first it's gone through those tortuous culverts that we went through. So there you go, journey's beginning to journey's end. So right at the source now, and if we follow this tiny little flow backwards to these few puddles, we end up going into a little hole in the ground, almost like a little culvert, and somewhere inside here is the spring that gives birth to the Medlock. So this is the landscape we're in. You'll see there's a few scattered houses and farms, a little bit of a housing estate there at the bottom, but we are on the edge of a moor, and it does get a bit bleak up here as well. With the map, the Google Earth is now turning towards Manchester. There's the source there, and then it will run through the fields towards the top of the screen and towards Manchester. I never envisaged it would be such a misty day like this. I envisaged sunshine and looking over towards Manchester, but it is what it is. Maybe it's a good thing that we're in these bleak hills to show just exactly where our little river is born. Anyway. Okay, so we've seen the source up here, and the Medlock will run down this way through fields. Bit of a non-event really. It's just, there's not much to look at. It's just down in a little gully, and it will enter the reservoirs here, the Strinesdale reservoirs. We're going to catch up with it here just here where it leaves the Strinesdale reservoirs. And then here it enters its first major culvert, the Majestic culvert. So I'm going to show you that as well. So this is Strinesdale Reservoir, just outside Oldham. Some say this is the start of the Medlock, but as I've shown you, there isn't, because the Medlock runs into this reservoir just on the bleak hills that we've just been to. It runs through the reservoir technically and runs onwards down here to one of its first culverts, where it will drop down beneath the streets of Oldham. So what about the route of the Medlock? Which way will it run? It runs this eastern side of Manchester. Well, from its source up here, it will run through the reservoirs there, down through Lees there, down this way through Alt, and you can just see it faintly, through this way, through Daisy Nook, underneath the M60 motorway, down through Clayton here, and this is where it becomes the Red River, and it's in its trough, if you remember. And then we picked it up here, just at Phillips Park, and then you know the rest of the journey. So it basically does this eastern part of Manchester here. So we've just come down from Strinesdale Reservoir, down those beautiful steps. When the Victorians decided to contain water and send it along a different journey, they did it in a really wonderful way. I love this, I absolutely love it. That culvert there is technically one of the first culverts that the Medlock will drop into, and it will go down there and underneath the old waterworks that was round here. And on it will go on its journey, obviously, as we know, all the way through towards the River Irwell. So this is where we are, and the Medlock enters its first culvert, just where the waterworks is there, and those waterworks are attached to the reservoirs that you saw, in a place called Waterhead in Oldham, would you believe? And it will run down and it will go underneath Huddersfield Road, and then it will re-emerge just by a old mill called the Majestic Mill. So I'm going to show you that culvert. These are Roy's pictures, and the culvert is nicknamed Majestic Culverts. I'll let you guess why it's called Majestic Culverts. But like I say, these are Roy's pictures of probably the first major culvert on the River Medlock. Firstly, hello, my name is Martin, welcome back to another video. Bit late for that really, isn't it? This footage that you're looking at now of the Medlock source was shot in September 2021, and it was designed to be slotted into Medlock 12. When Medlock 12 got to like 30 minutes long, I realised that I couldn't really fit it in. So given that we filmed quite a bit more than the source, it sort of deserved to be its own video really. And filming it in 2021 explains me and James having moustaches. I don't know if you remember, we went through a bit of a phase where we had goatees and moustaches. Anyway, that's all done with. But while we're on the subject of culverts, a picture has come to light. It always does. After Medlock 12, a picture came to light. And it's regarding, or it plays a part in the photos that we got from GeoTerra, the photos inside the Medlock diversion tunnel. Now, if you look at these photos, what you'll see is that the water level's quite low, hence all that rubbish is kind of concentrated. It's just around the knees and the ankles and the waist at some point, but given that point in the diversion tunnel, it should be the water probably should be a lot higher. And when we saw this photo, we realised how they'd done it. If you look at this photo here, this is an aerial view of Knott Mill, and you can see they've basically took pipes and they've pumped the Medlock away from the diversion tunnel, probably took those pipes through underneath the bottom end of Deansgate at Knott Mill and pumped it into the Castlefield Basin the way it used to go, the way the Medlock used to run. But that would have brought the water levels inside the diversion tunnel very low, and I'm pretty certain it's connected to that survey work where they took the photos. So it always comes to light after the event. We see the photo, there was a bit of a date on it, it's 2016, it all falls into place. So I know some of you were saying the water levels seem low in the diversion tunnel. Well, I think that's how they did it. They basically got minimal flow into the diversion tunnel. And a few of you also mentioned how calm it was where I went in at the Potato Wharf bit on my kayak. Well, that's because the diversion tunnel sort of like funnels out like a trumpet. So the madness of where it goes in, it kind of like, it goes calmer because the tunnel gets a lot bigger. And of course you saw when I went in how much smaller it got. So there you go, I just thought I'd address that back in Medlock 12. Okay, so from Majestic Culverts, the Medlock runs down this way, underneath the A62, you can see it here, all the way down here, Medlock Court there, named after it, through the little village of Lees, and then it will come down here, and we're going to catch up with it when it starts to pick up some flow, and we're going to catch up with it down here at a place called Alt. The Medlock's got quite a bit of a flow on it now, it's starting to build. This is one of the early fords, but from here onwards now it will run open until we get to Park Bridge, and we did a video down there, so the next culvert is Park Bridge. And if you're wondering what Park Bridge is, this is Park Bridge. It's the remains of an old ironworks. I did two culverts up here. I did Sheepwashers Brook, which of course is one of the tributaries, and then I did one of the Medlock culverts in a separate video, but they're a whole other story. You'll have to go and find those videos on my channel. Just type in Medlock Park Bridge. Right, so there you go, the source of the Medlock and the upper reaches of the Medlock. And thank you to Roy for the pictures of Majestic Culvert. We'll leave the Medlock there now, just south of the village of Lees in Oldham, and we're going to move on for now. I don't doubt the Medlock will remain an old friend and we're going to revisit it at some point. I can see it coming, honestly. I can see us doing something on the Medlock again, so it won't be the end. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video because it gave me, Marcus, James and Roy a few nightmares, and at one point I was contemplating what would happen if I died. Yeah, that's how bad it got. Anyway, see you in the next video. Bye for now.